Good morning, guys. So, right now it's 5 a.m., January 25th. If you can see there. Um, Usually I go to the gym in the morning and I just want to start documenting my progress and just like my mindset to see like how I change over time. So, if you look outside right now, it's like covered, it's like covered in snow. But yeah, we're still gonna go anyways. Let's see where's a good spot to set up the camera. I'm gonna try here. This is my first time recording and I don't have a tripod, but we could see how that goes. Yep, today's push day. Yeah, something else I didn't mention was that it was 16 degrees today, and the world always wants to give you an excuse to not put in the work. So you can't follow your feelings. You have to go get better, regardless. Yeah, like I said, this is the first time I've ever recorded my. Sorry, this is the first time I've ever recorded myself in the gym. So this is outside my comfort zone, but I'm gonna try this for a while and see how it goes. Um, yeah, sometimes at the gym I get like a lot of thoughts, so I was just thinking about voicing it. Um, and then, I don't know, then in a few years I could reflect on how I've changed. So, but today, I typically don't wake up this late, by the way. Typically, I wake up like between 2 and 4 in the morning, and I come here, and it's a great feeling, I feel. Like when everyone else is asleep and you're, up early, grinding early, it always felt great, knowing that a lot of people aren't willing to, put in the same amount of effort. So, two more sets. Yeah, I think not yesterday, but the day before, I've been listening to this guy. His name is Tony Robbins, and in the past, I've always listened to like David Goggins, Alex Rosie, for like Kevin Lebroni, for motivation, and yeah, like Tony Robbins, he has a completely different approach. Um, I guess, I guess while David Goggins, he's more just about like brute willpower. Tony Robbins mentions like pull and push motivation, and basically Tony Robbins' motivation for doing things is, I guess, based on like a mission, and so he's like naturally inclined to do all these hard things. And I think that's like very different from David Goggins' philosophy, which is sometimes you just have to force yourself to do certain things, and it's all about just like that brute willpower, that push motivation. And I don't know, it's just interesting to think about, but like till this day, I've been mainly going off of push motivation, like having pride in yourself, knowing a lot of people aren't willing to put in the same amount of effort as you, so just like pushing yourself to do things you don't want to do, because that's like where you grow up, right? In the discomfort zone. So that's sort of been like I guess like my motivation. And yeah, sometimes, and this is something David Goggins says, but sometimes you have to work without motivation, and that's also something I go by, right? Like, he says you have to work without purpose. He says you have to work without purpose sometimes, because you'll be ready when the purpose comes. So I guess that's sort of been my, you could say, like, mantra I've been following. But alright, this one good. Next set. That was a PR, by the way. I've never done 9 reps with 185. One more set, and we're moving to shoulder press. But I think something I learned is that like life is all just a mind game. That's what I realized. Like a lot of the hardships people face, I feel like it comes from the mind. Um, so yeah, it's been something that I've been working on every single day. You know, I tell myself, you know, like you can't care about other people's opinions of you. There's an advice by Alex Hermosi that really resonates with me, which is, and this is like paraphrase, but like if that person doesn't have the life you want, then like who cares about their opinion, you know? So that's been something um, that I remind myself um, whenever I start to get in my own head. So also you just have to keep telling yourself that you just don't care, right? If you say that to yourself long enough and you practice that, then I feel like it becomes a reality. And when I say don't care, I don't mean like just like don't care about like other people or whatnot, but you just can't let other people's judgments and opinions of you get in your head. So yeah, just like the same with, you know, me saying like I'm disciplined, I'm driven, um, like, you know, I don't let people get in my head. Like, you say these things long enough to yourself and practice what you preach, it gets easier. So. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna do this recording. You know, I don't really care like how much followers I get or whatever subscribers. Um, I just want to do this to see the person I become a few years down the line. Like right now, I feel like I have this discipline and drive that I didn't have, like I would say around 9 months ago. And yeah, I would say like 9 months ago, that was when I was at my lowest point, you know. Because I just started getting my head about like all these things, you know, like I didn't have a job, my friends were dating, you know, I never had a girlfriend. And you just play like this victim's mentality, and it's a very, very bad way of thinking. So you have to tell yourself that you're badass. Like you can't let these emotions, you know, like feeling sorry for yourself. You can't let these things control who you are. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing past these thoughts, and you have to like keep grinding. That's just, there's no way out. got more in me. How do we do? I take it a failure. Back a little. Yeah, so hopefully, as I start doing more of this, I get comfortable speaking. Because usually I have like all these thoughts in my head, but it's very different to have these thoughts in your head and voicing them out. So hopefully that's, something that I get more used to, and I can, share my thoughts more freely. Maybe it could help some people who went through the same struggles. I like the same struggles of like loneliness and like depression, but I'll say it's really during those hard times when you grow as a person. And I don't think I would be the person I am today if I didn't go through those struggles. I wouldn't have this discipline and work ethic nowadays if, back then everything was easy, my life was comfortable. Yeah, there's a phrase. Um, it goes like something. What is it? Uh, Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. Tough times create strong men, and strong men create easy times. So I think you have to realize that during those tough times, that's really when you start to grow and understand yourself. And and you have to realize that change doesn't happen immediately. Each time you do something you don't want to do, you get stronger. So it took me 9 months to get to where I am today from my lowest point. So you just have to keep going. That's it. Don't let life get in your head. And there's also a sense of pride because you know a lot of people aren't willing to go through the same struggles you went through. You know a lot of people aren't willing to put the same amount of work you put in to like going to the gym, to, you know, for me, I'm a computer science major, so like that's working on a side project, you know, continuous learning. And, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to put in, you know, like 12 hours a day, you know, just working and grinding, and that doesn't include breaks, by the way. I record how long I spend working, so there's also, you know, like a very proud feeling knowing that you can do something a lot of people can't. So So, and that's something I think people don't realize is that while it may be very painful, while like in the moment it would be very hard, you know, you have to realize all the positive outcomes of your effort. I think people focus on like all the pain and suffering that comes with different endeavors, but they don't focus on what it makes them, you know. So yeah, I don't know if someone's gonna show up, so if they do, I might just end the recording. And I don't know, I don't really like, I guess, like saying these things in front of people, so. that's something nice about, going to the gym early, because usually most the gym's pretty empty, so. So yeah, my takeaway is don't ever feel sorry for yourself. You have to tell yourself, you're doing this to yourself, right? And then you just have to move on. You have to get back to work, get back to the grind. And also, remember there's no perfect time to start, changing yourself. You can't play this victim's mentality where you say, oh, well, these people, they have mentors, they have friends who are like co-founders, they have people who support them. You know, like, how proud you would feel if you're able to change yourself to the person you want to be. And you can say that you did it all by yourself. No outside help. That's someone who I respect. Someone who doesn't need, these people cheering them on, and they still get after it. You should take some time and think about which type of person you respect. And now, instead of just respecting, this person in your head, now you act in a way to become that person. That was always something I used to motivate myself, I respected people who grind, even without outside help. And, that's something that I work on every day. And I'm not saying like you should avoid people or reject people, but if you don't have anyone around you, that doesn't mean you wait. That doesn't mean you give up on something you want to do. So. And another advice I have is, you should find people that inspire you. because I think you really become